Good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 30th day of April 2024. I want to introduce the panelists. I have Joe Nyoto, the Member of Parliament representing Moranga County. He's the Senator there. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Sam.
I have Eric Nyadimo from the Institution of Quantity Surveyors. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I have Martha Wangari, Member of Parliament for Gilgil constituency in Nakuru County. Good morning.
Good morning, Gituko.
We are still waiting for the arrival of Senator Richard Onyonka, the Senator of Kisii County. As soon as he's here, we'll be joining us on set. But we're waking up to the continuing coverage of the devastating news about the effects of the floods that we're now reporting over 150, I think it's 166 as it was put by Dr. Isaac Moro, the government spokesperson last night, of the people that the country has lost since the start of the current rainy season. As of yesterday, the whole of yesterday, the numbers that were reported for that particular day were 66, according to the government spokesperson, many of them from the tragedy in Mai Mahiu that Kenyans are still coming to terms with. We'll be looking at the pictures, but you will see it on pages 2 and 3 of the Standard. The impact of that, including the fate of passengers traveling on a bus that was seen in the images, is unknown. Some of the items that were swept away by raging waters, you can see a man there sitting on a couch, just to show you how the water caught residents unawares to an extent that homes were destroyed. People who had been sleeping, taking rest for the night, were thrown into the deluge. And of course, the rescue operations were still continuing. Lots of people found dead. Again, reporting between 46 and 50 bodies recovered. I'll begin with you, Honorable Martha Wangari, because your constituency is closer to Naivasha constituency in Nakuru County.
Yeah.
Maybe you can help us understand, because we've seen a lot of reporting, the images, the impact of it, but still many questions as to what could have happened, where did the water come from? Yeah. What have you heard?
Of course, Sam, let me start by, first of all, sending my condolences to my neighbors in Kijabe. And I think, as you have said rightly, is devastating what happened the day before yesterday. And it's not the first time our county has been hard hit. You remember we had the Solai Dam a while back, which also took quite a number of lives. Just last year, I lost 7 people in Oljurai from flash floods. But I think this is far the worst we have seen, I would say, in the county and maybe in the country. And Gituko, I know there are people who had reported about a dam. I saw it in the media. But if you look at even the newspapers, you'll see even the Kenya Railways are on the ground, because it is just under the Kenya Railway, where the old railway line had passed. Mm-hmm. And there was a gully just under it, which had gained a lot of water and collected a lot of water. And then it broke because it had been blocked by debris and over the time. And I think the strength of the water and the power that came with it now found people downhill. And that's why Mai Mahiu is largely the affected area. And the impact, in fact, somewhere you would have seen a permanent house. It's flattened. It's like a savanna right now. It's crazy, filled with mud, including permanent houses. So it tells you how serious the impact of this water is. And I think even as we are going, like I'll give you an example in my place, a place called Karua, just before St. Mary's Hospital. There is a school on the other side and kids have to cross. And they normally use the underground pass under the highway. But today that underground pass is filled with water. Whenever it is raining, it fills to the brim. It is not usable, and it's a risk at every other time. So we have to get them to use the road. But I think for Kijabe, we can only send our condolences. I think I've seen a lot of coordination from the Kenya Railways, the CS for roads was there, because what we need to see is an all-government approach, or what we call the all-society, all-nation approach. We need to see the county government, we need to see the national government, but everyone at their place must be doing something. And I know not just Nakuru. Of course, Nakuru is the worst hit, but I've seen in Moranga, I've seen in Garissa. I think it's all over the country. And this is not normal rain, I would say, because even the El Nino that had been predicted was not this bad. In fact, it is worse what has happened. If you go to Homa Bay, you see Mbita, you go to Mandera, I think everywhere there's something happening. So I think what we need to do is be on high alert. But even as leaders, whatever level you are, we do something where you are, from whatever level you're representing.
Right, and you get into the details of that. But also in Moranga County, I think it's Gitugi Ward. Yes. We saw the reports there of the mudslide that was reported. I think about 6 people lost their lives there. Maybe Senator can help us understand what exactly is going on, but also the intensity of rains in Moranga.
Thank you, Sam. And as you have rightly put it, Moranga was also affected yesterday. We had a landslide in Ngutu location, a place called Kiganjo, and that is in Gitugi ward of Madhya constituency, and we lost 6 lives. And so just like my sister, Honorable Mother, has said, I think I would first want to send my deepest condolences to the families that lost their loved ones in Kijabi and in Kiganjo, Gutu location of Gitugi ward, Madhya constituency. And we also had a boat, of course, that capsized in Tana River. So I also send my deepest condolences. But what happened in Madhya, to answer your question, Sam, was that it is a very hilly place where the landslide happened. And so there had not been any signs of any pending disaster. And as people were asleep, of course, just like it happened in Kijabi, then there was a big landslide that swept about, I think, about 4 homesteads. Of course, there were people that were rescued alive, but unfortunately, we lost 6 lives. So Moranga was different from Kijabi in that in Kijabi, the tragedy came from a dam or a collection of water that burst its banks or that collapsed. But in Gitugi, we had a landslide.
Right.
But we have lost lives in both cases.
Oh, okay. All right. And condolences to both of you for the losses in your respective counties. Eric Nyadimo, I said you come from the Institution of Quantity Surveyors. It is the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. Apologies for that. Okay. But help us understand, because people are raising questions, especially when you look at the situation in Mai Mahiu. It is not clear to, from the images that you're seeing now, the aftermath of the floods, it is not easy to understand what exactly transpired there. Maybe from your perspective, what are you seeing and what is it that could have gone wrong that nobody saw coming?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. First, just like my colleagues here, I would like to, on behalf of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya, extend our deepest condolences to the people and the nation of Kenya for the loss of lives that has been caused by the ongoing floods. Our thoughts and sympathies remain with all the affected families and every Kenyan that has been impacted by this unprecedented rainfall and flooding, and we continue to witness the unnecessary deaths. So we recognize that one of the reasons that we could be having this is the favorite topic at the moment, which is on climate change. The flooding we acknowledge could be as a result of a number of factors. One of them is on the clearing of vegetation around the riparian reserves, leaving those kind of areas to be very prone to surface runoff. The other one is, especially when you look at places like Nairobi, is the disregard of planning and zoning regulations, which occur during property developments. And just like the Honorable Martha has indicated, where you have blocking of waterways, or you have collection of water, and the sudden opening of such kind of blockages would result into massive flow of water, which would be destructive. One of the other things that we are saying is that there could be presence of private dams, especially when you look at the flooding that has occurred around Mavoko, Machakos. There needs to be investigated the fact that you could be having private dams and there was a sudden release of water, because there are people who dam these water bodies for their own private agricultural use. But because of the rainfall, the amount of water is potentially a lot, and then they decide to suddenly open, and then that releases a lot of water, as we could have seen happening in areas like Syokimau. The other issues is
Sorry. So the situation in Syokimau and that area,
yeah.
You believe it's because of those private dams?
Yeah, because if you look at the way the flooding occurred, and if you look at an estate, I think it's called Graceland. I have a friend who lives there, and he says that his house flooded within minutes, just from 8 o'clock. So within 8:10, the house was completely flooded. So that shows it's not just about the rain, but this is water was then that was suddenly released that then caused that massive overflow. And you know, the challenge is that in many of these developments, you have blocked drainages. You have drainages that are not deep enough to support the flow of water. So naturally, the water would then flow on the road surface, which then leads to the houses.
Wow. Okay. All right. And Honorable Martha, please help us understand now, because I remember yesterday in the morning, we're here on the show and you're just seeing the early images of what had transpired, including that bus that had gotten stuck. Nobody was able to really comprehend what was going on at that time. What would be your comment about the response that we have seen, the action taken, especially to respond to the people affected by these floods, and even in understanding the magnitude of it, to even weigh how much of response is required?
I think, first of all, I'll agree with Nyadimo here in terms of private dams and also public dams, because if you remember, even the Patel Dam was a private dam. Just yesterday, I remember my team had gone to a place called Kasarani in my constituency, and there's a private, we got a complaint already of a private dam that is posing some kind of danger. So what I would say about that response is that I saw the Ministry of Interior issue some statement on it, but I think the most important people in this response would be, first of all, the NGAO team. That is the National Government Coordination Team. That is the chiefs, the assistant chiefs, the village elders, because they know where each dam is. And anytime there's a danger, it is for them to report. And I think they just need to have a coordinated effort through the DCC. And I was with my DCC yesterday on the ground. I spoke to Honorable Jane Kehara. She was there the whole, very early in the morning at 6 a.m., coordinating rescue efforts. But the most critical people are the NGAO team to start with, because these are the people where if there is a problem in a village, they will go to an elder, they will go to a sub-chief, or they'll go to a chief of that area. Then that information is transmitted. And if you listen to even CS Mashogu, he said that what informed this decision is the reports from the counties. How do they get these reports? They have NIS reports every day, but they also have the DCC report that every DCC in every sub-county issues. So that way, we'll be able to take mitigating responses instead of just reacting after it has happened. But on yesterday, I think I would say that I have seen very many people, including not just leaders. Sometimes we put pressure on politicians because they are more visible, the cameras will find them. But there are many people who are doing small things, humanitarian aid. We saw Red Cross on the ground. We saw them in Mandera. We saw them in Garissa. We saw them in Tana River, the rescue efforts. I saw the county government in Nakuru coordinate, including the deputy president visiting the area. I have seen Homa Bay reports where they have already received assistance from the national government, because it does not matter. At this point, we may shift blame over and over, but it has happened. So what do you do? I think that should be the first thing that we do. Save lives. Don't let it happen again. I think there is also an appeal by the CS Interior that don't joke with water also, because I've seen people actually joke with water, because sometimes you see people are waiting at the edge of the road and you dare to cross. And I think that is also sending a very bad picture for everybody. I think that needs to be very well communicated. As leaders, we must communicate it at our level, from the MCA level. let us be able to assist where we can, because you can't just sit. And I think that what we saw yesterday in Kijabe is already something that I would say I commend, because the two levels of government are working together. I saw Kenya Railways, I saw CS Murkomen get the Kenya Railways on the ground. Whatever can be done, let it be done. First of all, to recover the bodies that are trapped. Secondly, to save as many people as possible. And third, to mitigate against any more of such fatalities occurring.
Right. And of course, Eric, if you had to step back just a little bit, and in terms of, she says that the efforts that are being made to prevent occurrence of such situations, how difficult would it be for us to scan our environment when we know that a heavy downpour is coming? Or is it something that has not showed up as an important thing to factor? But is it possible to scan our environment, or it can only happen after the fact?
No, ideally we should be doing regular mapping of the country. And through mapping, we are able to create what we refer to as digital elevation models. These digital elevation models will show the terrain as it is, and it is then used to model things like floods, so that it can then be able to show very clearly to the authorities what actions need to be taken if different scenarios occur, and you'll be able to see what are the way the water will actually flow and the areas that would actually be affected. So it would be very critical that each and every county really can be able to have these digital elevation models, and that the government can undertake mapping of the country at least every 5 years, because the landforms also keep changing, and to provide sufficient information for mitigation measures.
Do we have that, the digital elevation models?
Yeah, this can be done through aerial surveying techniques. You map either using the satellite images, or you can use the aeroplanes to be able to get the data, and then we have different software applications that can be used to process that data and create these models.
That's what I'm asking. Are we already doing that, or it's potential that we have?
The country is not doing it as it should be able to do. That's like with the Survey of Kenya under the Ministry of Lands. They're not doing that, and they should be doing that because it's the National Mapping Agency. But it's done on small areas by different parties who want to understand how their terrain looks like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Senator, of course, Moranga, this is not the first time you're having a landslide. Or is it mudslide? I don't know what the difference is. I forget my geography classes. But the fact of disaster preparedness, I think, is also a shared responsibility. The counties would have a huge chunk of it. How prepared are we? And is there work being done at that level that would sort of predict what would be the impact of certain adverse weather issues?
Thank you, Sam. And I totally agree with you that counties have a role to play in the prevention of disasters, and they should be disaster prepared. But then some, I think the national government would have to do the bigger part of it, because like I've had we have collected a lot of very professional information from our co-panelist here, Eric. Counties may not have those professionals. I mean, most of these functions are not yet devolved. Of course, are not devolved functions. So I think counties should work very well with the national government. And of course, we have what we call Intergovernmental Relations Act that should help counties to be able to tap into what the national government has. Of course, counties should set aside a good amount of money and invest in even if it will not be those technical things that Eric is talking about, but counties can be able to carry out inspections. Of course, like the county of Kiambu, which I think, in whose jurisdiction I think Kijabe Dam lies, they should have been able to know that there is a body of water that could be disastrous, and maybe have reported then to the relevant national government authority. So I think counties have a role, yes, I agree with you, to play, at least in identifying potential areas or areas that have the potential of wreaking havoc to our people. And some, I also think that we need more money or more resources for counties. And I'm glad that we have Speaker Mother here, and you know they're the ones that dispense at the National Assembly money bills. Although the division of revenue bill, of course, starts with us. But I think we need to give counties more cash, because every time we recommend a particular figure for counties at the Senate, sometimes when it goes to the Budget and Appropriations Committee at the National Assembly, these figures are revised downwards. For the last 2 years that I've been there, that is what my experience has been. So we need more resources. We need to have a better or a better working relationship between the counties and national government, because yes, and I know I'm saying this for the third time, counties have a role to play, because this is the government on the ground. They are the ones that will know that this is where we can get a problem. But some, as we said, that we must also remember to call upon our people, especially those, because like yesterday, we went to Gituge yesterday, and there were people that were still adamant to move out. There is an old mzee who said that he cannot leave his goats there. And so we need to call upon our people to of course, move to higher grounds that are living in those grounds, and to be more cooperative. So what and I think government should also force people, if they are that adamant, to move out.
What happens to the goats eventually?
No. The mzee, I believe, is still there. Neighboring the area that was affected, the mzee is still there. I think government should also use, proportional force to move out people. Because if we leave it to their own volition, then some of them are very difficult. Some of them may not understand the danger that they are exposing themselves to.
Okay, you've raised several issues which you will be taking into account at the next step after the break, because you're raising about the county functions, the budget issues, but also that very important question about sensitization of the local communities of what danger may lurk around them. So Schedule 4, the one that is on functions of counties, function number 12 is firefighting and disaster management. But there's also stormwater management systems is the responsibility of counties. There's county land surveying and mapping, responsibility of the county. At the national level, you have disaster management as function number 24. That's according to the Constitution. So it's purely a shared responsibility between both levels of government to be looking to see what falls where in terms of execution. But also you keep insisting of Kijabe Dam. Honorable Martha Wangari will be telling us about what that is. But also you say that it's the responsibility of Kiambu County. We'll demarcate that squarely. After the break, stay tuned. We are still here talking about the flood situation in the country. If you have any questions, you can share with us at 22422, at Samgituku, on Twitter, at Citizen TV. Not Twitter, but X. You can use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll be reading a bit of that after the break. Stay tuned.